Have you ever, stood over a golf ball, gripped the club, and just wished you had some kind of superpower vision to see exactly what your body was doing wrong or how to make it better?
Oh, definitely. That feeling. It's pretty universal for golfers, isn't it? That hunt for a better swing.
Exactly. Maybe even like having a high-tech coach right there in your pocket. And that's really what we're digging into today.
We are. We're going to look at the actual science behind the golf swing, going beyond, the usual tips you hear on the range.
Right.
We're exploring how the body really moves, and this is key, where all that speed and power actually comes from.
Okay, so our sources today are taking us deep into golf biomechanics. Now that sounds maybe a bit intimidating.
Maybe. But it's really just the study of how living things move. Simple as that.
Okay.
And in golf, it's understanding that incredibly complex dance between your body, gravity, the club, everything.
And to get a handle on it, we're focusing on two main ideas, right? Kinematics and kinetics.
Exactly. So kinematics.
Mhm.
Think of that as the what of the swing. It's
Yeah.
just describing the movement.
Like what you can see?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Joint angles, how fast things are moving, the path of the club head, all the descriptive stuff. What we can measure about the motion itself without worrying why it's happening yet.
Okay, so if kinematics is the what, then kinetics must be the why.
You got it. Kinetics is all about the forces causing that motion.
Yeah.
So things like ground reaction forces, how hard you push off the ground.
Right, pushing up.
Yeah, and muscle activation, how energy gets transferred,
Yeah.
from your body down your arms into the club, that whole chain reaction.
And for years, we've had tools that gave us bits and pieces of this, haven't we? Like force plates.
Right, force plates show how players load into the ground, push upwards, super important for power.
And launch monitors, obviously. Everyone knows those. They tell you what happens after impact.
Exactly. Club head speed, ball speed, launch, spin, the results.
But there's always been this kind of missing piece, hasn't there? What's the body actually doing during the swing and all that detail between setup and impact?
That's the big question. And that's the gap where this advanced 3D motion capture technology is really stepping in.
Okay, so the mission for this deep dive is pretty clear then. We're going to unpack the science behind this 3D stuff, see how body movement shapes the ball flight.
And, yeah, uncover some genuinely surprising things about what the best players are actually doing, things that might challenge what you think you know.
All right, let's get into it. Unpack this 3D revolution.
Well, historically, getting this kind of detailed 3D data, it was a huge challenge.
Right, I remember seeing pictures, labs, sensors everywhere.
Exactly. Expensive labs, multiple cameras, you had to stick markers all over the golfer or use clunky sensors. It was cumbersome.
Definitely not natural, like you're swinging in a spacesuit or something.
Pretty much. It limited serious analysis to these very controlled, often kind of artificial settings. But the big breakthrough, what our sources are talking about, is sensorless 3D capture.
Sensorless.
Yeah, using just a single camera, often just your smartphone. Apps like Sportsbox, for example.
Hold on, so you're saying I could just like prop my phone on the range and get real 3D data on my swing. That's the 3D on the go thing.
That's basically it. It's a huge shift.
Yeah.
It's making this kind of deep biomechanical insight accessible to, well, almost anyone.
Wow.
You can capture swings anywhere range,
Yeah.
of course, capturing how you actually play.
So what exactly is it measuring that we couldn't easily see before with, say, video?
Oh, a whole range of crucial movements that are often subtle or just hidden. Things like precise chest turn angle, pelvis turn,
Okay.
and really importantly, the X factor. That's the separation between your hips and shoulders, how much you twist.
What's winding up a spring?
Exactly. That stores energy. It also tracks sway your side-to-side movement and lift, which is your up and down movement.
Sway and lift. Okay.
Plus, detailed joint angles, like how much your knees or elbows are bending and the exact 3D path your hands take.
Man, that's a completely different level of detail than just watching a swing video. It's like getting a MRI of your swing.
It kind of is. And with that detail, we can dig into more advanced stuff, like the kinematic sequence.
Okay, kinematic sequence. I've heard that term. That's the order things fire in, right? Hips, chest, arms, club.
Yeah, traditionally, that's how we've thought about it, the rotational sequence. How the body segments accelerate and then decelerate in the right order to whip the club through. Efficient energy transfer.
Right, the classic whip.
But our sources are highlighting something newer they can track accurately with 3D, the linear kinematic sequence.
Linear. Okay, different from rotational. How does that work?
It measures the speed and timing of points moving directly towards the target. So think about how fast your hands or the club head itself are actually traveling down the target line.
Ah, okay. focusing on that forward momentum. Has looking at it that way revealed anything unexpected?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the really big aha moments from the sources.
Yeah.
By tracking the linear speed of the hands, they found that in many really good, efficient swings, the hands actually reach their peak speed before impact, sometimes well before. And then they start to slow down or decelerate going into the ball.
Wait, what? Slowing down before hitting the ball. That sounds completely wrong. Don't you want max speed right at the ball?
It feels totally counterintuitive.
Right.
I thought the same thing, but the implication is huge.
Okay. Explain.
It tells us that maximum power isn't just about trying to muscle everything through impact. It's the result of this incredibly coordinated sequence, building up energy and then transferring it efficiently. That hand deceleration, it's actually part of releasing the energy out to the clubhead effectively.
Huh. So it's not about hitting at the ball, but sequencing before the ball.
Precisely. It's about moving smarter,
Yeah.
finding the right sequence and timing, not just swinging harder at the very end.
That really changes how you think about generating speed.
Okay, let's make this concrete. How does this show up in actual golfers? The sources had case studies, right? Yeah, some great examples. One was a junior golfer hitting off both a flat lie and a downhill lie.
Okay.
On the downhill slope, she instinctively, probably just for balance, limited her lateral sway, her side-to-side movement.
Made sense trying not to fall over.
Right, but the 3D data showed the knock-on effect. Less sway meant less rotation, and it actually caused her club to come down much steeper into the ball.
Wow. So a tiny, almost subconscious adjustment for balance completely altered her swing mechanics and the shot.
Exactly. It just shows how interconnected everything is. Small changes ripple through the whole system.
That's a really clear example. What was the other one? Something about a pro.
Yeah, this one's even more subtle. A pro golfer intentionally hitting draws and fades.
Okay, shaping shots. Common stuff for pros.
But here's the thing. The 3D data showed his core swing mechanics rotation sequence were almost identical for both shots.
Identical. But the ball went differently. How?
The data zeroed in on it. The difference came down to incredibly small, subtle variations in his sway and lift patterns throughout the swing. Tiny tilts, tiny shifts.
Just micro adjustment.
Yeah, like tiny adjustments on this complex system of levers in his body. Enough to just slightly change the club path or face angle and produce the draw or the fade. It's amazing how much control is happening beneath the surface, stuff the 3D can finally quantify.
Okay, those case studies really drive it home. And the sources also looked at lots of pro swings to find common patterns, right? These tracker truths.
Yeah, and some of them really push back against common golf instruction.
Like what? Give me one.
Okay, one of the biggest ones is about sway. You know how you often hear, stay centered, don't sway off the ball?
Yeah, definitely. Keep your weight stable.
Well, they analyzed a large group of top male pros. 100% of them started moving their lower body towards the target before they even finished their backswing.
100%. Moving forward before the top. That totally contradicts stay centered. Why?
The explanation from the source is it's about building momentum early, preloading the downswing.
Ah, like a little bump to start things going.
Kind of. Think of a baseball pitcher, starting their motion forward as their arm is still going back. Or coiling a spring and immediately starting to uncoil from the ground up. It's using motion to generate power, not staying static.
Okay, that makes sense. Dynamic movement, not being rigid. Fascinating. What else? Any other big truths?
Another key one was about the hips at impact. The data showed 95% of these elite players had their pelvis significantly more open, rotated towards the target than their chest when they actually hit the ball.
Hips way more open than the shoulders at impact.
Yeah, significantly. It really highlights how much the lower body is leading the charge in the downswing, pulling everything else through.
So does that mean maybe we focus too much on shoulder turns sometimes?
The sources suggest that, yeah. While shoulder turn is obviously important, this data really points to the hips playing maybe the dominant leading role in unleashing that speed into the clubhead for these top players.
These tracker truths are definitely thought-provoking, but it raises a big question. Should your average golfer see this stuff and just try to copy it? Like, should I try to sway forward early like a pro?
And the sources are really emphatic about this. No, definitely not just blindly copy.
Why not, if it works for them?
Because everyone's body is different. Flexibility, strength, past injuries, coordination, it all varies hugely. What works for a hyper-flexible tour pro might be completely wrong, maybe even harmful, for you or me.
Right. Copying the look without understanding the why or if it fits your body.
Exactly. It can easily make things worse, not better.
So that brings in the coach, right? The human element is still vital.
Absolutely critical. The tech gives you amazing data, objective numbers, but the coach is the interpreter.
The translator.
Yeah. They look at your numbers, your sway, your rotation, your sequence, but they see it in the context of your swing, your body, what you're trying to achieve.
So if I'm slicing, they look at the data for clues related to my pattern.
Right. Or if you need more distance, they can analyze your sequence data to see if you're using your big muscles effectively, transferring energy properly from the ground up. They're like a personal swing detective, using the data as clues.
A swing detective, I like that. Helping you find your best swing, not some generic model.
Precisely. The goal isn't to make everyone swing identically or turn us into robots chasing numbers. It's about understanding your own unique way of moving better so you can improve more efficiently.
Still, there's got to be a balance, right? I can imagine getting too caught up in the data, losing the feel.
That's definitely a potential pitfall.
Yeah.
And the sources mention it. Golf is still a game of rhythm, feel, creativity, intuition.
You don't want paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. If you're only focused on hitting certain numbers, you might lose that natural flow, that enjoyment.
So the data is a tool, a powerful one, but it's not the whole game.
That's the key takeaway. Balance. Use the data for insight to understand the what and why of your movement. But you still need to practice feeling the rhythm, trusting your instincts on the course. It should complement feel, not replace it.
We've really covered a lot of ground here, from the basics of biomechanics, kinematics, kinetics.
Though to how this smartphone 3D capture is changing the game.
Yeah, making it so accessible. And then those really surprising findings, like the linear sequence, hands slowing down.
And those tracker truths about pro sway and hip rotation, definitely eye-opening stuff.
It's clear this tech offers a whole new lens for looking at the golf swing.
And it feels like we're just scratching the surface. The sources even hinted at the future, maybe combining 3D data with other tech.
Like what?
Maybe things like brain imaging or biofeedback to understand how stress or pressure actually affects our physical movement patterns in real time.
Whoa, that's next level stuff. But for now, the big win is getting golfers this accessible data about their own mechanics.
Exactly. It's not really about chasing some mythical perfect swing based on numbers. It's about understanding your swing better, moving more efficiently for you.
Which hopefully leads to playing better and just enjoying it more.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, that leads to a final thought the sources kind of left me chewing on, something for you, the listener, to think about, too.
Yeah?
With all this amazing, detailed data suddenly available to pretty much anyone, what does mastering your swing actually mean now? Is it about hitting specific numbers that the app tells you are good? Or is it still ultimately about finding a swing that feels right, that fits your body, that's efficient and repeatable for you, and lets your own style come through?
That's a great question. Where does the data end and the art or the feel begin? It's something we'll probably keep exploring as this technology evolves.
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for digging deep with us today into the science of the swing. Keep exploring, keep learning.
And yeah, keep swinging.